Hi, everyone. Oop. The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. Let's not prove this guy right. He's proven a couple of theories right in his lifetime. So recently I was presented with this amazing opportunity. I design a city in China. The city is called Ansun. It's located where you see here. And the next picture is, the picture on the side is of Guizhou, where the city resides. Ansun is a third-tier city. It's a tier 3 city. It's approximately about 3 million folks live in that city. And so it's got a kind of a middle income. It's up and rising. This is the site. It's literally at the center of the city. And basically, it's a redevelopment project. There are existing about 20,000 inhabitants on the site. And it's surrounded by these beautiful mountains. These mountains are called karst formations. And they were formed by the dissolution of the land through kind of acidic rain and other things over millennia. And I was looking at these sites, and I was looking at the mountains when I was on site, and I thought to myself, wow, you know, something seems really familiar here. So I called up my dad, and I said, didn't Grandpa fight the war in these mountains? And my dad confirmed it. He said, yes, he did. The Battle of Mount Song was a pivotal battle in China during the Sino-Japanese War, in which the Chinese began to take back China. And my grandfather fought diligently in that war. In the third battle, before they took over, he actually got wounded. And, but the Chinese won, obviously, eventually. And then he moved to Shanghai, and then Taiwan, and then the US, where my family and I grew up. But he took back China. And I thought, wow, that's quite incredible. And now, growing up in America, I live and work back in China. China, as you all know, is about 1.3 billion people, but that's only accounted for. There are about 200 to 300 million not accounted for. There are about 60 different distinct minority groups in China as well. So it's quite a diverse community in China. But China is crowded, and industrialization hasn't been really great to China. It's caused a lot of crowding, overbuilding, but also caused a lot of loneliness. People at web cafes, people taking dumps in the subway, just not knowing where the bathroom is, neglected seniors, people on the ground that have fallen and nobody helps them out. Cities that are built, but nobody actually lives in them, even though it's crowded. Kind of a weird paradox, isn't it? And then there are cities that are polluted terribly because of industrialization. Cities that are just horrible to live in. Dust and grime and smog. Children suffer remarkably as well in these cities. So I thought to myself, my God, I'm back at the site. I got a lot to do. I got a lot to figure out here, so we don't kind of repeat those mistakes. So I thought, real estate development could be what determines the future of humanity. And I reflected upon that in terms of real estate being a cradle for our values, a cradle that determines how we interact as a community. But technology hasn't been kind necessarily. Technology, like the elevator, have lifted us off the land that we toiled and on. But technology has also brought us elevators that have done this, created terrible spaces. Cars bring us from point A to point B, but they've also created disparate social conditions in which people are separated. Safety is an issue. 50% of paved roads in 50% of the land in China is paved road. And then big box retail is thriving because of the car. And I'll show you a video from, a zombie video from World War Z where Brad Pitt starred in. And, no, sorry, this is actually from Black Friday 2 weeks ago. And you can see how much people care for each other as opposed to that old toaster. So there are so many divisions in the world right now. There are mental, there are political. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Sorry. There are country divisions, there are topographies, roads, apartments, walls, all sorts of divisions in the world right now. How can we begin to heal those divisions, bring people back together, make communities happen? And we could look at this video and kind of get a sense of how that can be possible.
Probably deserve. After all, not only do they show empathy toward companions in distress, scientists have now discovered that they will also help strangers.
What we did was we took one rat, who was always the free rat, and then we had a stable of strangers. So on each day, and we do 12 days of testing, each day the free rat saw a different trapped rat. And what we saw was that they opened for strangers just like they were cage mates.
However, when these rats were tested with rats from another strain, in this case a black-caped variety, they would not help the stranger in distress.
That led us to think that there might be some kind of social bias where rats will only help rats who are similar to them. And to test this question, we paired the two rats of different types and housed them together. And we found that once they were housed together, those rats were willing to do anything for each other. So they were willing to help each other, even though they weren't similar to each other.
To figure out whether helping behavior required familiarity with an individual or with a strain, the researchers housed albino rats with black-caped ones for 2 weeks. The albino rat was then rehoused with another albino rat before testing.
They still remember living with this one individual black-caped rat, and consequently, they ended up opening for the black-caped strangers. What that says is that the albino rat needs to know one individual of that type in order to extend a very pro-social feeling towards others that look like or smell like or feel like that individual.
So in other words, a diverse social environment made them act in a helpful manner towards others.
So I cut that off a little bit, but a diverse social environment created empathy. Empathy, empathy, empathy. Indifference because of a lack of shared experience. If a cat and a dog can hug each other in this very cute little picture here, so can humans, right? So can humans just by having a shared experience together. I'm sure they didn't just get together today. They got together because they were in the same space. So back to the site again. So we look at the site and say, oh my God, now we have a way of looking at this in a special way. How can we build a sustainable community for 45,000 individuals that bridges diversity using technology in the right way that really represents our higher values? And we look at the site and it's beautiful. It's got these karst formations. So how can we take those karst formations and not create, who knows what Midwestern city is this? Who knows what city this is in China? So how can we create a city that has some character here, right? That doesn't become any old city. That was Nanjing. I don't know what the Midwestern city is. So you have these land formations outside of the city, and then you have the future planned roads inside the city that begin to cause those divisions again, right? There are 7 plots of land here. There could be 7 different divisions there. But we begin to take those karst formations and the idea of them and begin to integrate them and create these peaks and valleys in the site and begin to bridge those divisions, lift those gates. And we begin to create these interconnected paths similar to how you have in Hong Kong, but we widen them so that they have kind of these park connector issues. And then there are these waterways and peaks and valleys in the site that are the buildings. And then there's the section where people can walk across the street, feel safe, and not feel the division of the road. And so that's the plan. And the beauty of this particular site in Guizhou is there are 20 distinct minority groups currently living on the site. And instead of assimilating them, we are integrating them into the fabric of the site. We are taking them, allowing them to farm the land on the site, farm the urban farms, allow them to interact with the communities, the social activities that occur on the site, allow them to farm, survive, thrive for themselves and for the communities beyond, and sell and make a living for themselves. We're working with Hitachi to do that. We're working with Hitachi to bring the best of technology in terms of AI and supercomputing into the sensors into the community to be able to track and monitor everything in the community and keep the affordability of the community key. Real estate is what really undermines the divisions in poverty and in people in the world right now. And there's sustainability as well. We're making sure that all these communities are sustainable and affordable by introducing solar panels and greens and waterways and water conservation and passive and solar heating cooling. So these are some of the photos from the site. We're terracing the residential to allow for that urban farming. We're creating conditions where the center of the site is this big greenway. You never see any roads, hopefully, in the site. And you bring people together, and the buildings become those karst formations that exist in the site, and they terrace back, and people are hanging out, and the buildings become these kind of sculptures in the landscape, and people are having fun, and it's only in a third-tier city. Imagine if we could do this in a third-tier city, and this is that karst formation condition. And this is a rendering of the condition. So in the next 10 years, this is going to be built, piece by piece. So empathy and design and empathy, empathetic design, we believe is key to really bringing and bridging families and communities together. And I would hope that I could make my grandfather proud of the country he saved, and children raised in these communities can lift those gates and hopefully one day save the world themselves. Thanks.